dear participants, very warm welcome to the online think tank, Where to Land. We are very much looking forward to that. And now, my name is Bilabel. I'm the director of the Aktionsnetzwerk Nachhaltigkeit in Germany. And this being a real pan-European approach, I am a part of the consortium behind that online think tank, behind that new pan-European initiative. You will get to know the other consortial partners, being mostly the Institut Français and the Goethe Institute, but there are others. You will get to know them. And I am right now in the position to file you in, to give you an idea what is going to happen in the next 4 hours. And we are very lucky to be able to spend these 4 hours with you through the digital online realm, which gives us the opportunity to welcome so many people from different countries. And I'm looking in the chat right now. It's amazing how many people are already here. I'm very much looking forward to that. Let me now share my screen. So you should see my screen now. This is what we are about to do. Welcome, bienvenue, welcome. And today, this being a pan-European session, there will be translations. So all the speakers will speak in their very native language, but you participants, you will have the opportunity to decide if you want to listen in English, French, or German. You can switch the channels and the interpreters will help you while translating everything. When you're speaking, either you are a participant or you are a speaker, please do use a microphone and a headset to give us the opportunity to understand you well. The translation you can find in the lower right corner. There is a button and there you can change your language and you can stay in that language. So then everything will be translated there. This being an interactive session, obviously we have enough space, enough time for you to engage with us, to engage with the discussion. So there will be 2 first panels in which there will be more of a moderated shared session. And after that, you can join the discussion either by typing something into the Q&A part. This is, again, you can find it in the lower part of your screen, or you can raise your hand if you want to address the question to the audience. Then we will get you into the session and you can talk about what you think needs to be talked about. Important is that session will be recorded and it might be broadcasted on the websites of the consortial partners. So keep in mind, whatever you're saying can be broadcasted after that. So this being said, I will switch to my native language, which is German right now. So jetzt rede ich in Deutsch und Sie können schon einmal probieren, wie das funktioniert mit dem Übersetzen.
All right, so now I'm speaking German, and you can all have the opportunity to see what it's like to listen to an interpretation. If you would prefer to listen to English or French, just click on their respective buttons. So if you want to hear me in French or in English, just to reiterate, you can switch your channel at the bottom of your Zoom window. All right, so I'd like to welcome you all warmly to today's event. I wanted to mention something. It's really, really strange talking about sustainability today when the world feels as though it's on fire. We're talking about the future that's clear, but we shouldn't forget what's taking place in the world right now. Everybody who's speaking here today is aware of the position that we all have, and we represent this position. But today, nevertheless, we have to talk about our topics at heart. Today, we have the French ambassador in Germany, Anne-Marie Descôtes. She will talk about this issue from her perspective. Afterwards, I'll take the floor and talk about why we want to meet with you in the next weeks and months. This isn't just a meeting that will take place once. Hermann Lugan from l'Institut Français will also be here. He is one of the initiators of this process. This process was initiated by l'Institut Français. At 2:30, we'll have a 1-hour session. Barbara Gessler from Creative Europe will be there. We're very much looking forward to having her with us. Eva Nguyen Bin is here, president of l'Institut Français. Manfred Stoffel of the Goethe Institute is also here. But he will be, or rather he is not here, he'll be represented by Wolf Iro. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it here today. Or rather, in this section, Manfred Stoffel will be speaking on behalf of Wolf Iro. Then we will have a break. And we'll move from the policy-making sector over to the institutions. And to take a closer look at the actors in the sector, we'll have Sebastian Brüngel from the Cultural Association of Germany. Andrew Ellerby is there, Nicolas Dubourg from Saint-Diac, Annie Bozeny of FEAS, Marketa van Tove, the artistic director of the Prague Quadrennial of Performance, is also with us. Afterwards, we'll have the opportunity to discuss these topics together. And then at 5:30, we'll take a look at what we've accomplished over the past 4 hours and look towards the future and the next steps to be taken. After this meeting, there'll be another online dialogue. Hermann Lugan will touch on this. In addition to these online dialogues, we'll be meeting in Strasbourg at the European Conference on the 5th to 7th of October. Now I'd like to hand the floor over to Hermann, in addition to the ambassador. Welcome, and we'll see each other soon.
Ja, hallo, bonjour, je vais parler français. Donc, Madame l'ambassadrice, malheureusement, n'est pas encore en ligne.
Hello, everybody.
Elle avait un rendez-vous avec un ministre.
Unfortunately, the ambassador has not made her way into the room here today.
Du coup, prendre la parole et vous donner quelques mots d'introduction.
She has an important meeting going on right now. Therefore, I'll give my speech now, and as soon as the ambassador is here today, then I will hand the floor over to her, of course.
Donc, bonjour à tous. Je suis Hermann Lugan, responsable du Bureau du Théâtre et de la Danse de l'Institut Français d'Allemagne.
So, hello everybody, welcome. I'm Hermann Lugan, and I'm head of theater and dance at the Institut Français in Germany. Thank you, Jakob Bilabel and the Aktionsnetzwerk for Sustainability. Thank you very much for everything that you've done to launch this initiative. Thank you to all the partners of Where to Land. So now I've just received the information that the ambassador is here today, and I can hand the floor over to her right now. And we're very much looking forward to this.
Madame l'ambassadrice, qui est notre hôte aujourd'hui, puisque cette initiative s'inscrit dans le cadre de la présidence française du Conseil de l'Union européenne. Donc, je vous donne la parole, Madame l'ambassadrice.
Merci, merci beaucoup, Hermann, et pardon de...
Thank you, Hermann. And pardon me for having you wait.
De choses dans ces moments tragiques que nous...
There's a great deal going on in this very tragic moment right now. And nevertheless, we're very happy to be here with you today, even in a digital format. So I'm president, I see the president of the l'Institut Français here. Hello. I'd like to welcome the director of Europe Creative, of the European Commission. Hello, Mr. Jacob Bilabel, director of the Sustainability Action Network. And I would like to also say hello to Deputy Director of the Cultural Department of the Goethe Institute. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Votre action concerne le défi climatique, et j'en parlais justement.
So we're talking about climate crisis today. And I was just talking about this with the German Minister for Agriculture. The climate crisis is undoubtedly one of the greatest challenges of our century. With the European Green Deal, the European action has made it a central task to curb climate change and to adapt to it. We have a great task at hand here, and we need to change our ways of living. Governments have agreed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 55% compared to 1990 by 2030. At present, France holds the presidency of the Council of the European Union. We have an ambitious Fit for 55 package and is before the Council right now. And there's progress that's being made on this. We received 15 different texts pertaining to this ambitious packet, and progress is indeed being made. And it is therefore fitting that Emmanuel Macron has chosen to make climate change one of the key priorities of his presidency and the French presidency coming up. I'm delighted to take part in the unveiling of the European initiative aimed at bringing together all the actors in the performing arts sector in order to design a new model, one that is compatible with a low-carbon economy and that promotes the long-term inclusion of art in all European territories. Where to land, embedding European performing arts in the new climate regime is the title of today's event. And it obviously pays tribute to Bruno Latour, who invites us, in the literal sense, to explore the earth, the thin surface between heaven and earth that we inhabit. And with regard to the difficulties encountered when attempting to address ecological issues, so where's the promise of prosperity, of sustained freedom? How do we maintain the ideal of freedom? Bruno Latour underlines the importance of redefining the effects of freedom in a new way. The meaning of freedom changes when it is a question of getting used to being dependent rather than being a question of what makes us feel alive. By redefining our understanding of dependence, we have the opportunity to redefine our understanding of freedom and the quest for autonomy. The more dependent we are, the better off we are. But this quest to seek out ties that liberate often runs counter to our own habits. So this is what we have to do. We have to form alliances that make sense. This is what will need to be done in order to succeed. We also need to take stock of our assets and resources in a precise, localized, and action-oriented way. This is the purpose of this alliance formed around the Theater and Dance office of the Institut Français in Germany, with the Action Network for Sustainability, the Syndiac, the Goethe Institut, l'Institut Français, the Mayenne, the Theater of Strasbourg, Scène Européenne, and the City of Strasbourg. This union will grow thanks to all of the goodwill, imagination, and energy pouring out of your sector, your creativity and your energy. There are some sectors that are having a difficult time addressing this issue, but not this one, and that's amazing. Today's kickoff event opens a permanent European dialogue initiated in January to the public, and we invite you to join us. It is our hope that this dialogue will culminate in a face-to-face conference in October 2022 with the aim of establishing concrete commitments from the sector on the most important issues related to climate change and our impact on it, in addition to establishing necessary approaches to reorganizing the sector in line with these commitments, and establishing or creating suggestions for public policies to facilitate the commitment of the people involved. This vision is both beautiful, magnificent, and necessary, and I know I can count on your commitment, your willingness to discuss and to listen, of course. So I wish you all a very productive session, and we are waiting with much anticipation for your results.
Donc, merci Madame l'ambassadrice pour ces mots d'introduction et d'encouragement.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Ambassador, for your words of encouragement.
Le travail remarquable qui est fait déjà en Allemagne par le Aktionsnetzwerk Nachhaltigkeit. Merci aux partenaires de Where to Land qui viennent d'être cités également par Madame l'ambassadrice.
Thank you, Mr. Bilabel and the Action Network. Thank you to all the partners of Where to Land, all of those who were named and listed by the ambassador. We have 504 participants here today. That's very impressive, I must say. And this interest shows us how important it is to make a difference and to step up. But how do we want to make a difference? Since the 10th of January, we've been working to pool our resources as part of a permanent European dialogue. We have started this in order to pool our efforts, our ideas, our resources, bringing together 50 to 60 players from the sector, representatives of the European networks, national institutes, professional organizations, artists, theater and festival managers, and experts specializing in assisting cultural organizations with the energy and ecological transition. Through this dialogue, our goal is to broaden our horizons, but also to map out a path together to fine-tune our approach from meeting to meeting and ultimately mobilize the entire ecosystem. You are warmly invited to join us for the next meetings. I will come back to this at the end of today's meeting. So the situation is urgent. It's a climate energy. And I'd like to talk about what we need to overcome.
Un cadre politique qui nous engage a été arrêté par l'accord de Paris en 2015 qui fixe une trajectoire de réduction des gaz à effet de serre.
With the 2015 Paris Agreement, we have committed ourselves to a political framework that sets a trajectory for reducing greenhouse gases. This entails radically changing our lifestyles, the organization of our economy, and most likely our institutions. Structural changes in the energy, transport, and agricultural sectors are taking place. And these will be decisive, of course, but we have very little control over them. However, we are all called upon in our professional and private lives to take action. In this respect, the cultural sector, like all others, must do its part to drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions caused by its own activities. We have chosen here as the time and place to focus on the performing arts sector. I believe that the transition we are calling for presents both opportunities and risks for the sector. The chance to redefine the way in which art and culture is conceived and perceived in society, the chance, if the sector becomes a forerunner, to perhaps regain a central role. That would be something that we all would like to see.
La pertinence sociale vient de la pertinence sociale, comme dirait Jacob Bilabel.
Social relevance comes from social relevance, as Jacob Bilabel would say.
Dans cette transition, le risque est multiple. Celui d'une marginalisation dans une
On the other hand, however, if the sector does not commit itself resolutely to this transition, there are many risks. For example, the risk of being marginalized in a society that will be increasingly confronted with the challenges of transition, at the risk of being subjected to structural trade-offs that are increasingly disadvantageous to the cultural sector, or the risk of being subjected to an unchosen transition, for example, a foreseeable increase in energy and transport prices that will have a greater impact on the sector if it has not already started its own transition. In their book, Decarbonizing Culture, David Eyre, Anais Roche, and Samuel Valenci note, by becoming more sober and virtuous in terms of energy, the professional cultural sector will become more resilient to physical shocks. A cultural sector that is sober and virtuous in terms of energy and climate is a sector that will be easier to define. Reports like the one from the SHIFT project published in the fall of 2021, footprints laid out over 15 years by Julie's Bicycle, Creative Carbon Scotland, European networks like On the Move, and so many others are all out there. We basically know what needs to be done, but we still need to chart a common path together for the whole sector to follow.
Reste largement à faire.
We have to recognize that we still have a lot of work to do to educate cultural actors and public policymakers. We must recognize that we still need to take action. Julie's Bicycle, for example, in preparation for the COP26 in Glasgow, conducted a wide-ranging global survey on cultural policies, asking about the place of the ecological transition in cultural policies. The result is that it remains very marginal overall. But as Carol Overy and Ben Twist of Creative Carbon Scotland pointed out, art exists within society, not outside of it. Héloïse Lesimple also reminded us that art and culture could not be excluded from our collective endeavor to reduce emissions. She pointed out that certain cement manufacturers are asking for an exception due to the vital importance of the housing sector. But I'd like to reiterate and reassure you that the cultural sector will not be asking for such an exception, particularly when it comes to taking action against climate change. Héloïse Lesimple of the SHIFT project estimated that the sector, like all others, must reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by nearly 80% by 2030.
Fixé par le Green Deal européen.
This is in line with the European Green Deal's target of 55% in comparison to the levels of 1990. She presented a range of different measures as well, from transparent ones to proactive ones, as well as a set of defensive and positive measures with an increasing degree of difficulty, all the way through to far-reaching restructuring measures for the entire sector.
Défensive et positive.
For example, not flying within Europe.
Croissant de difficultés. En se penchant sur le cas pratique des émissions d'une salle de musique actuelle moyenne, elle nous a montré que les mesures simples,
looking at the emissions as an average, or by looking at the average emissions of a music venue, she showed us that simple and easy measures allow us to reduce our carbon footprint by 10 to 15%.
Notre impact. Mais pour atteindre l'objectif de 80%, il faudra un mix beaucoup plus ambitieux.
We can achieve this by not offering meat, for example. However, to reach the 80% target, a much more ambitious mix of all types of measures will be needed, including profoundly overhauling our entire sector. In other words, and I think this is the main message of our dialogue, working as individuals won't be enough. To achieve our climate objectives, we will have to rethink the way our sector is organized and how we produce and distribute our work. And we also have to enter into a dialogue with policymakers in order to create a framework that both empowers us as a sector to act, but also forces us to make commitments. As our ambassador said, and I'd like to reiterate, we would like to list out our goals. We have individual goals, systemic goals, and political goals. By the end of our European face-to-face conference that will be held on October 5th to October 7th in 2022, we would like to obtain the following goals. For example, to achieve concrete commitments from the sector regarding the most important areas of the industry's environmental impact. We also would like to develop strategies to restructure the sector, in addition to mapping out the steps to be taken by the political authorities to ensure that the players are able to commit themselves. Today, we have invited key institutional leaders from the European Commission, l'Institut Français, the Goethe Institute, the Arts Council, and the German Federal Cultural Foundation to share their perspectives on the issue and to think in dialogue with cultural actors and leaders of professional organizations about the path that we will all have to chart together. To tell you the truth, we also asked politicians to attend, and some of them were very interested but had to decline because of time restraints. The political dialogue will be conducted nevertheless, we hope, and this will all be based on the outcome of our conference in October. I would like to express my sincerest thanks to all the institutional leaders gathered here and who have agreed to take part in the Q&A session on this issue, which remains an immense challenge for our present and near future.
Remercie tout particulièrement parce que Manfred.
I would like to, or I would have been handing over the floor to Manfred Stoffel now, who I'd like to thank. However,
parlé en décembre et qui nous a soutenus sur la recherche de moyens et d'alliances autour de l'initiative. Manfred va participer au premier panel.
Suggested that he would help us today, and he would act as a certain mediator. He'll be replacing Wolf Iro today in his podium discussion, and due to the political situation in Ukraine, Wolf Iro unfortunately is not able to join us today. Manfred, I'd like to hand over the floor to you. If you'd like to say something, otherwise we'll continue.
Ja, vielen Dank, Hermann. Ja, vielleicht auch erstmal, ich grüße auch alle Beteiligten, die vorher schon genannt worden sind, auch alle Gäste im
also from my side, a very warm welcome. I already saw 150 participants in the chat, which is great. I think I'll still get the chance to raise my voice during the panel discussion, so I'll hand over to you again. Thank you very much.